The two things everyone knows Tunis for, the blue and white cliffs of Sidi Bou Said and the ruins of Carthage, are not actually in Tunis. They are separate towns down the coast on one little train line, and so is close to half of these 12. The city in the middle is grittier than the brochure, and in a few ways it is the better half. Here are all 12, the famous ones and the ones nobody mentions. Start with the postcard, because you have already seen it even if you have never been. White walls, cobalt blue doors, pink bougainvillea spilling over a cliff with the Gulf of Tunis falling away below. That is Sidi Bou Said, half an hour up the coast, and yes, it really is the photo. It gets crowded by late morning, so come early or stay for the light near sunset. Skip the cafe terraces on the main drag where they triple the price for the view, and walk the back lanes instead, which are where the actual town lives. If music is your thing, the cliffside palace called Dar Nejma Izara keeps a collection of historic instruments and runs concerts through the year. Down at the marina, the crowds thin out fast, and you pay for that quiet by climbing back up the staircase everyone calls the 365 steps, even though nobody has ever actually counted them. My favorite thing in the whole city is the one the postcards skip entirely. The Medina of Tunis is 1,000 years of covered streets that still work as a real market, not a restored film set. You smell the spice stalls before you see them. There are coppersmiths hammering, perfume sellers, carpet shops where the hard sell is half the entertainment, and tucked between them, old mosques and Quranic schools behind those heavy studded doors. It is a maze, and getting lost in it is the whole point. Two things make the difference here. Go in the morning before the tour groups clog the main arteries, and when a shopkeeper waves you up to see the view from his roof, say yes, because the rooftops over the Medina are the best free thing in Tunis. Even in the August heat, the shaded lanes stay cool, which is more than the rest of the city manages. Carthage is the one people actually fly in for, so let me reset the picture in your head before you go. This was one of the great powers of the ancient world. The city Rome spent 100 years trying to wipe off the map and finally did. What survives is scattered thin across a leafy seaside suburb. The Antonine Baths down by the water are the showpiece, towering Roman columns with the Mediterranean right behind them, and the Bursa Hill above gives you the layout and a small museum. Now, if you are expecting one dramatic ruin standing whole like the Colosseum, lower that bar, because Carthage is fragments spread over a wide area with real walking between them. The upside is that it sits on the same coast train as Sidi Bou Said, right between the city and the cliffs, so you string the two together on one easy afternoon and save yourself any extra planning. Bring water and wear real shoes. Everything dug out of those ruins, the good stuff, ended up under one roof a few minutes west. That is the Bardo, holder of one of the biggest collections of Roman mosaics on the planet, lifted out of Carthage and dug and laid out across an old palace. Forget any image of little tile chips, because these are huge, complete floor scenes, hunts and gods and farming life, and one famous panel of the poet Virgil seated between two muses, believed to be the only portrait of him made in his own lifetime. There is also a hoard of marble and bronze raised from a Roman shipwreck off Medina, first dived by Jacques Cousteau and his team back in the 40s. One thing the old guidebooks get wrong, so listen up. The Bardo shut for about 2 years after the Parliament sharing its building was closed, but it reopened in 2023, and the mosaic halls are running again. A few side rooms are still being redone. The mosaics, the entire reason you come, are not among them. Keep an eye on the skyline as you wander the old city, and you will catch a square minaret you can never quite walk up to. That belongs to the Zitouna Mosque, the oldest and most important in Tunis, founded in the 8th century with 1,000 years of scholarship behind its walls. It is a working mosque, so people who are not Muslim cannot go into the prayer hall. Here is the move the locals will point you to, and it costs nothing but a polite glance at a shop. Climb to one of the terrace rooftops on the souks that ring the mosque. The perfume and carpet sellers know exactly why you want to be up there, and you get the minaret, the courtyard, and the whole spill of the Medina in a single frame. You will be hungry by now, which works out, because the next stop is where the city actually shops. The central market, the Marché Central, is where Tunis buys its dinner, not a version staged for visitors. 3 covered halls run it. A fish market where they clean the catch in front of you, a middle section stacked with olives and cheeses and tubs of fierce red harissa, and a back end heavy with fruit and vegetables. Come in spring and the flower stalls go a little wild with orange blossom and roses sold for making oils and water. The side streets just outside are lined with coffee roasters and pickle shops. It is a 10-minute walk from the Medina, free to wander, and the fastest way to learn what Tunisians really eat before you go and order it. Trade the ancient history for the very recent kind just up the hill. Kasbah Square is the broad plaza at the seat of government, framed by a mosque and the city hall, with a tall white monument planted in the middle back in the late 80s. The revolution that kicked off in Tunisia in 2011 and then rolled across the whole region played out partly right here, and this square has been the stage for the big demonstrations ever since. So standing in it is standing in history that is barely a decade old. That said, 10 minutes does it. Take the shot with the rows of red flags and walk on. The story I keep coming back to downtown belongs to one old church. The Cathedral of Saint Vincent de Paul holds down the main square where the big avenues cross, thrown up by the French in the 1890s in an odd mash of Moorish, Gothic, and Byzantine that has no business working and somehow does. As the story goes, the saint it is named for was himself enslaved here in Tunis 400 years ago, though historians argue about how much of that tale is real. It is still the main Catholic church in a Muslim country, which tells you plenty about the layers in this place. Duck inside for the stained glass and the cool quiet. A few hundred meters along the same avenue, one facade stops you cold. It belongs to the Municipal Theatre, a white Art Nouveau wedding cake from 1902 with the front of it crusted in carved figures of Apollo and the Muses. It still runs a real season of theater and music. Even with nothing on the night you walk past, the building is one of the prettiest things on the avenue, and it sits right on the line between the cathedral and your next coffee, so a look costs you nothing. Now, the one place on this list I would tell you to skip outright. Azur City is a big modern mall out in the southern suburbs, over 100 shops, a giant hypermarket, a cinema with the country's first IMAX screen, traveling with restless kids, or hiding from a brutal afternoon in some air conditioning. Fine, it does that job well enough. As an actual thing to do in Tunis, it is a shopping mall, and you did not fly all this way for a shopping mall. I am only naming it because half the other guides pad their lists with it, and you should know exactly what it is before it swallows an afternoon. The final trip out of town goes much further until the city is gone behind you completely. Takrouna is a tiny Berber village stuck on a rocky crag about an hour and a half south, a steep little scramble to the top that pays off with a long view over the olive plains to the Gulf. A few families still live up there. Down on those plains in April 1943, New Zealand troops took this hill from Axis forces in the final push toward Tunis, and a war cemetery still sits nearby. It is a long way for a short stop, so only make the trip if you are already heading south. Keep your expectations low, and it is a quiet, strange, oddly memorable little place, which leaves the thing I would honestly plan a whole day around, and it is not a monument at all. It comes down to the food. Tunis is the best table in the country, where Mediterranean, North African, and Middle Eastern cooking all land on one plate. Harissa, that smoky chili paste, sits on every table, spread on bread, or worked through everything else. In the Medina, the stalls sell brik, a thin, crackly pastry folded around a whole runny egg and a little tuna that you have to eat fast before it escapes. There is fricassee, a small fried sandwich, and there is lablabi, a bowl of chickpea soup poured over torn bread with egg and cumin and harissa that costs almost nothing and fixes a cold morning. For something sweet, hunt down bambalouni, a hot sugared donut handed straight out of a window. Sit down to couscous on a Friday the way the families do, and you will learn more about this place over that one lunch than any ruin will teach you. So if you only get a single day here, do this. Spend it lost in the Medina with the rooftops and a bowl of lablabi, then ride the little coast train out to Carthage and Sidi Bou Said for the long afternoon light. That one day holds the whole strange shape of Tunis, the gritty living city and the famous half that sits just outside it. For the travel guide I use to keep the costs down on a trip like this, and the tour operators worth booking to run the Carthage and Sidi Bou Said day for you, look in the description below. Both are waiting there for you.